President Trump and Russian leader Vladimir Putin are set to hold a summit this Friday in Alaska. This meeting would be their first since Trump returned to office, and Trump says he wants to use it to broker an end to the war in Ukraine. Ukraine, however, was not invited to this summit. For more on what to expect, we're joined now by NPR's Greg Myrie, who's in Ukraine's capital, Kyiv. Thanks for being here, Greg.
Hi, Adrian.
Greg, what is Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky saying about this summit that he won't be attending?
Well, he's already issued videos and statements making it clear Ukraine is not prepared to give up any land the Russians have captured. Here he is on one of those videos.
Звісно, ми не дамо Росії нагород.
So he's saying we will not reward Russia for what it has perpetrated, and then he goes on to add that Ukrainians will not gift their land to the occupier. Zelensky also attacks Russia's President Putin, but he stresses he's supportive of President Trump's efforts. He says at one point, what is needed now is not a pause in the killings, but a real lasting peace. President Trump told me so, and I fully support it.
And how about the Ukrainian public? How are they viewing this summit?
Well, in a word, skeptical. We spoke with some Ukrainian families at a park on a sunny summer day. Here's Taisha Savchenko. She's 39. We met her with her two children and her husband, who's on a break from his military service.
Навіть якщо це вирішиться, це східні території у нас.
So she's saying that even if there's a halt to the fighting, she thinks the Russians will hold on to the land in eastern Ukraine, they'll regroup and rearm for a few years, and then attack again. And that's really a very widespread belief here.
Greg, do we know what Russian leader Vladimir Putin wants to get out of this summit?
Well, we don't know the specifics, but Putin suggested something last week that persuaded Trump to hold this summit and hear him out. Now, the summit itself is a big deal for Putin. Trump has been very critical of him recently. Now Putin has a chance for a face-to-face meeting to rebuild that relationship and perhaps ward off more sanctions. Now, the Ukrainian concern is that Putin will make some small gesture, like a partial or temporary ceasefire, that doesn't address any core Ukrainian concerns. Then the Ukrainians will be in the awkward position of rejecting that offer, and the Russians will accuse them of not wanting peace. We do know the main Russian demands from previous failed peace efforts. They want most or all of the Ukrainian land they now hold. That's nearly 20% of the country. Russia wants guarantees that Ukraine will never be allowed to join NATO, and Russia wants Ukraine to have a very small military. Ukraine rejects all of this.
So there's a lot on the agenda here, and it's worth noting that most summits between the U.S. and Russia are planned long in advance. This one is coming together pretty quickly. So how might this shape the dynamics?
Well, it absolutely could. It makes the summit very unpredictable. Traditionally, these U.S.-Russia summits are worked out over weeks or even months. All the details are arranged ahead of time. Every event is carefully choreographed. The guiding principle, really, for both sides is no surprises. But that's just not how Trump operates. We don't know what Putin might put on the table. We don't know how Trump will respond. And even if Trump and Putin reach some sort of understanding, it won't mean that much until we see how Ukraine responds.
Greg, in the 30 seconds we have left, what's the latest on the battlefield?
Yeah, an overnight drone strike by Ukraine set off a huge explosion and ignited a major fire at an oil refinery in southern Russia, according to the Russian media. This has become a regular occurrence as Ukraine hits at Russia's transportation network. And Russia also carried out multiple drone strikes. What used to be a few dozen drone strikes a night now is often in the hundreds.
Thank you. That's NPR's Greg Myrie in Kyiv.
Hey.
Sure thing, Adrian.
Police sees dealer.
To hear more about that planned meeting between President Trump and President Putin, we turn to NPR political correspondent Danielle Kartzleben, who's been following the story. Good morning, Danielle.
Hey, good morning.
We just heard the view from Ukraine, but from the Trump administration's perspective, what do they want to accomplish with this meeting in Alaska?
Well, of course, they want any progress they can make on peace at all. I mean, Trump has really, it's hard to overstate it. He's talked up his ability as a world peacemaker on the campaign trail. He bragged about his relationship with Putin, saying that that would help him end this war. He said repeatedly on the campaign trail that he would end this war within a day of taking office, and that did not happen, clearly. But he has not let up. He talks about this conflict a lot. He's intervened in it a lot via long phone calls with Putin, having Zelensky over to the White House, which infamously ended with a shouting match. And as Putin kept bombarding Ukraine, Trump started criticizing him more. All of which is to say that Trump has talked a huge game here, and that was even before his recent fixation on winning a Nobel Peace Prize, with Trump trying to intervene in all sorts of conflicts worldwide. Now, one other thing that's interesting here is that after opposing aid to Ukraine for a long time, some in his own party, including some MAGA Republicans, are now supporting Trump in his support of Ukraine, which is just a big theme of this year. Congressional Republicans falling in line behind whatever Trump says.
So let's stick with the Republicans for a bit longer here, because there's a standoff between Texas Republicans and Democrats, which keeps going. And Republicans there want to redraw voting maps to gain 5 seats for the next midterm elections. And to avoid that, Democratic lawmakers have fled the state. Can you tell us where things stand now?
Right. Well, those Democrats went to a few blue states like Illinois, Massachusetts, New York. And meanwhile, Texas Governor Greg Abbott, a Republican, responded by ordering their arrests. Now, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton added to that on Friday, filing a lawsuit to remove 13 of the fleeing Democrats from their seats. Now, will any of this work for those Democrats? As our colleague Rachel Treisman reported, walkouts are just not great at getting results like stopping legislation, but they are great at getting attention on an issue, and this has definitely done that for redistricting.
Right. I mean, we've heard that some blue states might respond in kind, but can they really do that? I mean, will the math work in their favor?
Well, that's two different questions. Can they? They're going to try. California Governor Gavin Newsom has said that if Texas redistricts, well, he's just going to move forward with having California maps redrawn to benefit Democrats. And that would involve a referendum this November for voters to approve those maps. So he's pushing ahead on that. Meanwhile, some other blue state governors have also said they're open to this kind of retaliatory redistricting. But it's just not possible to know what the math would look like. The House right now is so closely divided. This could go any direction.
To turn to a different issue in Washington, D.C. right now, recently a DOJ staffer was assaulted here last week during an attempted carjacking. And President Trump said he wanted to temporarily federalize the district to bring crime under control. Can you talk about what that means exactly and how would it work?
Well, it's very unclear. Friday, Trump said there would be increased federal law enforcement on D.C. streets for a week. Now, I asked the White House for more details and didn't get any. But we're going to hear more soon. Yesterday, Trump posted on social media that on Monday there's going to be a White House press conference that will, quote, essentially stop violent crime in D.C. Now, we should note that the district says violent crime is actually down significantly this year in the city. But a lot of what Trump has talked about is very much crime-related and not about the other many parts of running a city, like, roads, trash collection, safety nets. The crime aspect of this is, of course, still a big deal, and Trump has also talked about taking over the city and getting rid of home rule, which is D.C.'s ability to govern itself, elect its own officials. Now, again, we have no idea what he's going to announce tomorrow, but there's a very good chance it will cause a lot of backlash here in the district at the very least.
That's NPR political correspondent Danielle Kurtzleben. Thanks again, Danielle.
Of course, thank you.
Here you go. Plus, I'm taking up
A moment to remember NASA astronaut James Lovell.
I know
Lovell
you need
flew in space 4 times, including as commander of the near-catastrophic Apollo 13 mission in April of 1970. An oxygen tank exploded aboard the spacecraft, but after enormous effort, the 3 astronauts aboard the craft made it safely home. And while the explosion cost Jim Lovell his only chance to land on the moon, he did get to coin one very iconic phrase. You might remember it from the 1995 film about the mission, where Tom Hanks played Lovell.
Houston, we have a problem.
Our colleague Mary Louise Kelly spoke with Jim Lovell a few years ago and asked him to tell the story.
On Apollo 13, who actually said the famous words? I'll let you say it now. Houston.
The way this went was the fact the explosion occurred.
Yeah.
I was in the lunar module going down into the command module when Jack said, Houston, we got a problem.
Okay, Houston, we've had a problem here.
And Jack Lausman down at Mission Control Center said, "Say again, please."
This is Houston. Say again, please.
By that time, I got down there, saw that we lost 2 fuel cells, and I said, "Houston, we have a problem here.
Houston, we've had a problem.
We have a main B bus undervolt."
We've had a main B bus undervolt.
And that was how that all came down to pass. And of course, then they just said, "Houston, we have a problem." And I kind of wish I had copyrighted that. I would be in my yacht right now in the Riviera.
And I went back and looked because there's some controversy over the official transcript reads, "Houston, we've had a problem," and then it got
What it is
changed,
Houston,
misquoted.
we have had a problem. We have had a problem. We've had a main B bus undervolt. And of course, it got picked up, and every time someone has a problem.
You want chips? I don't have chips.
You ever catch yourself saying
You
that
have the
around the
rest of
house?
your orange and your cheese.
More than 55 years after the mission that
Oh, that's
nearly took
Noah's
his life,
cheese?
Jim
No,
Lovell
Noah didn't have any
died
cheese. You
on
and-
Thursday
you and
this
your
past
brother
week.
did.
He was 97 years old.
No. I'm not going. I'm not going.
In Texas, Republicans want to redraw their state's congressional map to try and
That's
gain
your oranges
5
that
more
were sitting
seats for
over
the
there.
GOP in next year's midterms. Now, Democrats in California and other states are considering a similar political
What was that?
counteroffensive.
Yeah.
But there's a complication to California's plan.
He must have shut
And
it all back.
redistricting in that state and some of these states is done by independent commissions in order to prevent some partisan gerrymandering that we're seeing now. Among those 7 states is Michigan, where Katie Fahey led a successful campaign to establish an independent commission. She's now executive director of the nonprofit organization The People, and she joins us now from Grand Rapids. Welcome, Katie.
You're gonna want
Thank
water.
you. Good morning.
So,
bring you a
Katie,
cup of
your
Joe.
organization is about nonpartisan solutions to ineffective government. What do you think of this redistricting tit for tat?
I think it is the heart of what is wrong with American politics right now, where you have governors trying to figure out with all of their political capital and might, how do we try to suppress
That's
what
your
the
niche
voters
for ya.
actually want instead of focusing
little
on how do
Hammer
we
Jr.
best represent the will of the people in our state.
Well, if Texas Republicans are successful, then the plan in California to counter that would be to essentially undo the work of their state's independent commission, draw a new map created by lawmakers, and then present it to voters in November. Does that sequence, in your view, make this kind of redistricting a little more acceptable?
No.
I don't. I think the people of California voted for an independent redistricting commission, and that's what's in their state constitution.
Yeah, I don't think so.
And trying to
Do you get a
ignore that
popsicle
for
at
a
your house
short-term
early in the
political
morning?
advantage
I'm gonna
goes
ask
against
Jack and Amber if they
why
do.
millions of people vote
'Cause
to
they've
change
been
to
hounding
an
me for
independent
popsicles
commission,
every
which
morning.
is they want our elections about voters and not politicians. And how do we actually think about drawing
I
these
want a
lines where they
popsicle.
can represent our interests and the things that need to be addressed in our state capitals and in Washington, D.C.
I'm curious, since this
Listen, slow down, fool.
redistricting fight
Drink your coffee
started,
first.
have there been calls in Michigan
Bud
to
right
redraw districts to favor either
I want
party?
a popsicle.
Thankfully, not that I've seen, although I will say after our independent commission was in place, both the Democrats and Republicans were unhappy, which I think was
I
a
need a
sign of success.
popsicle.
Both of them felt like it wasn't advantaging their party enough.
They did a heyday
and what's
in
been
there.
really exciting to see in Michigan is that Michigan's a very purple state. About half of us vote for Democrats, about half of
way.
us vote for Republicans. So our own
They
congressional
wouldn't listen to
district,
me. No one won't
half of
listen to
it,
your word.
has gone to Democrats and half of it
They're
has gone to
talking about going
Republicans
up the
when the
mountain to go
voters have
rescue
voted
that
that
horse.
way. When one percentage more
Because they hear the
decided
horse
to
up above the pasture.
for the Republican Party or the Democrat
I looked
Party.
at
I
both
think
of them. I
that's
said,
at the
"You
core
take
of
off like you
responsive
did yesterday,
government, where
or then
then
you
our
get your ass
politicians
beat."
are more incentive to
Cedric,
actually
you're gonna
focus
get
on
your ass
policies
beat by
that
Zach
people
when
care
you get
about
home.
and that are
Your dad.
impacting their daily lives.
And just a note for listeners, Katie's line, you're having a bit of static coming
said,
through.
"No, I recommend
but
you don't
your
leave
radios
off.
are okay if you're listening.
You guys are pretending out
Katie,
there.
one more question about the independent commission in Michigan. Can you talk about what that has done for Michigan politics?
There she goes with the popsicles.
I mean, it's essentially transformed our government in a span of only a few election cycles. We had gerrymandering
Oh, no.
for at least 50 years, where the will of the people was not being followed. And now that we have an independent commission,
Oh,
you
yeah.
see far more competitive districts
These
where
fuckers
it's a
work as a
toss-up
team.
and you
I
don't know
always
whether a
liked them.
Democrat or Republican or somebody else is
Go
going to win.
lay down.
When the majority of those seats used to actually be decided in the primaries, where very few voters and often just super partisan voters turn out to vote. We've seen a bunch more
What are you, hungry?
legislation
Come
being
on.
passed that's cross-partisan. Instead
you
of
doing
just
in the
one party.
freezer?
And you also see politicians
In the freezer.
saying that and
It's like
reflecting that
Walgreens.
we need to follow the will of the voters instead of just having the party
Ah.
dictate what's going to be the
That's wrong.
agenda, which I think is the hope and the promise of our form of government.
Katie Fahey is executive
Oh, yeah,
director
that's
of the
right.
nonprofit group The People. She led the effort to
Well,
have a
well,
nonpartisan
well,
redistricting commission
well,
in Michigan. Katie, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Fucking turd on the ground.
The next story involves a court case
Oh, yeah.
that pits religious rights against public safety. In San Antonio, there's this grove of trees that sit by a river, and the city wants to remove these trees so it can repair the river wall.
No
But for
popsicle
hundreds
for
of
you.
years, Native Americans have used the site for spiritual
No
ceremonies.
popsicle for
As
you.
reporter Patrick Davis explains, they're suing
Lights
to
off,
protect
sucker.
it.
As the sun sets on San Antonio's sprawling Brackenridge Park, a small group gathers at a
Dude, I
tight
look at
riverbank.
it.
The river is lined with live oak and cypress trees and attracts a lot of water birds, egrets, herons, and double-crested cormorants.
This site is just a part of many on the way down from as far away as Canada. People have been traveling through here for thousands of years.
That's Gary Perez, a member of the Native American Church and the principal chief for the Pacwa, Quahiltecan peoples of Mexico and Texas. Perez has been holding spiritual ceremonies at this bend in the river for 25 years. He says it's the presence of the cormorants that helps make this a sacred place.
These birds carry our intentions or our prayers up to the heavens.
But San Antonio officials plan to remove the trees so they can begin repairs on historic buildings and retaining walls along the river. Shannon Shea Miller, Director of Historic Preservation for the city, says protecting the bank from erosion will help the tree canopy in the long term.
By stabilizing this area, then we'll be able to not only save the trees that are able to remain, but stabilize the area for future tree growth as well.
San Antonio cannot remove the trees if cormorants or other migratory birds are there. City workers have used fireworks and clapperboards to deter egrets and herons in recent months. In a statement to NPR, Assistant Director of Communications Brian Chasnoff said those measures will increase wildlife biodiversity, water quality, and park access. But Perez's partner and fellow Native American church member Matilde Torres sees things differently.
And that's part of the problem. That noise is part of the problem. When they don't understand and respect wildlife, that's the problem.
Like Perez, Torres is also a member of the Pacwa peoples in Mexico and Texas. In 2023, they filed a suit against San Antonio, arguing that they have a religious right to meet at that river bend and need the cormorants to hold sacred ceremonies there.
The spiritual ecology that our Creator laid down on this earth is worth fighting for because it's part of who we are, it's part of our language, our songs, our identity.
In a few moments, Perez will lead a ceremony called Midnight Waters that is inspired by a creation story from the Quahiltecan Native American groups that lived in South Texas.
They're gonna poop out all that.
The group forms a circle around a small fire. Torres and others sing, invoking a spirit that pervades all life.
Yes, Papa,
A
you're
man
right.
enters the circle and passes a bucket of water to the person leading the ceremony.
And he takes these cormorant feathers, he dips it in the bucket of water and gives somebody a special blessing with that, to rejuvenate them, to bring them back to life.
As long as the cormorants remain at this river bend, Perez, Torres, and their community will be here too.
As long as these trees stand, it's going to be their home. But if these trees are gone, that's it.
Perez and Torres see the fight to protect those trees and the cormorants that nest in them as a sacred calling. And they said they're prepared to take that fight all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court if necessary. For NPR News, I'm Patrick Davis in San Antonio.
You've seen all the summer blockbusters. You've watched everything on Netflix and scrolled through the entirety of social media. What else is there to do? Well, here's a wild idea. How about cracking a book? And if you're wondering where to start with that, good news because NPR's Books We Love has tons of recommendations, including fiction reads from some of our coworkers. We'll kick it off with a suggestion from one of our Weekend Edition colleagues.
Hey, I'm Shannon Rhodes, Weekend Edition senior editor, and a book I love is a collection of short stories. I just want to press it into your hands now, and it's from the British author Graham Swift. It's called 12 Post-War Tales, and that post-war reference is a little deceptive because these are really stories about what lingers, how historical events, wars, economic forces shape our personalities, our lives, in ways that we're not even aware of. As one character reflects, they say that we remember everything. It's all still there. It's just that we don't have the key, the passport. And that's what Graham Swift pulls off. He gives us the passport, cracking open characters' lives, sometimes in the span of just a few pages, and in ways that will linger with you too. And what's a recommendation, if not an invitation for more? So while I have you, watch the movie Mothering Sunday. It's an adaptation of another Graham Swift book, and it is gorgeous. Happy reading, happy watching.
Hi, my name is Kalyani Saxena, and I am an associate producer with Here and Now. And the book that I'm going to be talking about is The Raven Scholar by Antonia Hodgson. I want to start by saying that epic fantasy is hard to do really well. Often there's a lot of world building and multiple characters, and it can feel really overwhelming really fast. But The Raven Scholar makes it look like a breeze. This story takes place in Oran, where a fierce competition to replace the emperor is about to take place. Suddenly, a contender is found dead before the tournament can even begin, and Nima Kra, a scholar with some admittedly dubious morals, is tasked with finding the killer. You know, this is a tale of murder, tragedy, and familial betrayal, and it's firing on all cylinders. It's too smart for its own good and layers multiple mysteries with characters that defy their own archetypes. I read a lot of fantasy, and the year is still young, but to me, The Raven Scholar feels like the 2025 fantasy novel to be.
And then it gets into this part right here.
My name's Corey Turner. I'm an education correspondent here at NPR. And the book I'm dying to tell you about is The Buffalo Hunter Hunter by Stephen Graham Jones. His earlier books, Mongrels and The Only Good Indians, are harder to put down than a long tear of duct tape. Buffalo Hunter Hunter may be his best yet. The story is chiefly concerned with the events of January 23rd, 1870, when the U.S. Army massacred more than 200 members of the Blackfeet Nation, most of them women, children, and the elderly. And Jones has given us a hero, or anti-hero, for the ages, a Blackfeet man named Goodstad, who is determined to avenge the wrongs of the past, even if it takes him several lifetimes. See, The Buffalo Hunter Hunter is a bloody good thriller, and a fearsome accounting of America's past, stitched inside the corpse of Bronze Star's Dracula. All from Stephen Graham Jones, one of our very best horror writers, and one of our very best writers.
Never mind. Okay. And it just keeps going.
My name is Elena Burnett, and I'm a producer on All Things Considered.
So weird.
The book that I cannot stop recommending is My Friends by Swedish author Fredrik Backman. It tells the story of a painting. We find out about its artist and his friends who become the subjects of the painting. We learn about the childhood summer filled with pain and laughter that inspired it. And we follow a young woman called Louisa as she learns how the painting came to be. The book is a deeply personal exploration of art, pondering what we sacrifice of ourselves to bring beauty into the world and what we gain when others find a home within it. Now, as I read, I had to set the book down countless times and just take a moment to myself to marvel at the way that Bachman captured the rebellion of joy, the ferocity of devotion and the
Yeah.
cruelty of indifference.
I
And
know.
just a word of warning, my friends, just like every other Bachman book, will break your heart into a million little pieces, but more importantly, I promise, it will repair you with restored faith in the small miracles of just being human.
Those recommendations again are My Friends, The Buffalo Hunter, The Raven Scholar, and 12 Post-War Tales. For a full list of books we've loved so far this year, visit npr.org/summerbooks. Lately, it seems some European cities have had it with tourists. In Paris, for example, staffers at the Louvre went on strike, overwhelmed by throngs of visitors. In Barcelona, protesters showed their displeasure by spraying tourists with water guns. Other cities have introduced fines for visitors who misbehave. But the capital of Denmark, Copenhagen, has been trying a different approach with something called Copenhagen. It's a program that encourages tourists to be more mindful visitors. And here's how it works.
You pay for experiences in Copenhagen by doing an action. So, for instance, if you bike to a museum, or you walk, or you take public transportation, you either get a free entry or discounted entry there. Or you could go on a kayak tour or boat tour as well for free by collecting litter in our canals.
That's Rika Holm Petersen, Director of Marketing for Wonderful Copenhagen, which is the city's official tourism organization.
In some other places, we also invite them to work in an urban garden. So these are some of the things that will be adventures for the city.
I gotta ask, where did the idea come from?
I think I'll start on our vision in Copenhagen, and we want tourism to be a force for good. Last year, when we started thinking about what we wanted to do, we came across a survey by Kantar. It's a huge data analysis consultancy company, where they actually said 4 out of 5 people say they want to do good, which is amazing. We wanted to bridge that gap. So how can you make collecting litter fun? How can you make more people bike when they are in Copenhagen? How can you make them take public transportation? And then we came up with a reward system. It must be fun. It must be a unique experience. Otherwise, you won't have people to do it. It must be extremely easy. You go to Copenhagen.com, and there you would find a map, filter options where you can choose between what kind of actions would I like to do or what kind of rewards am I looking for, and then you get the result there.
How do you know that these tourists have actually done the thing they say they've done to earn these rewards?
Yeah, in some of the attractions, for instance, if you should have taken public transportation, they should show their train ticket, for instance, or bus ticket, but we really just trusted people.
How has the response been from tourists and for locals?
That's important to note as well, because the concept was also for locals. Yeah, when we look at the results, and still I don't have the results for this year, for the participants, we had a 100% satisfaction rate, and 98% would recommend Copenhagen to others. And what they said is that this was an opportunity to try something else, not the normal top attraction. This was not something you would find in Amsterdam or in Madrid or in Barcelona. And another huge thing, which I think is important, is of course that we've sparked a global conversation on the impact of travel. How can we make tourism contribute in a better way to both visitors, but of course also to locals?
What do you hope visitors gain or learn from participating in the program?
One of the things we hope they gain from it is that when they leave, we hope they will leave inspired. That they've tried to bike, for instance, more, or that when they go home that they choose more plant-based meals. But if you can have people or visitors doing it no matter where they're going in the world, or if they're also doing it at home, then we started sort of a movement which could be really nice.
That sounds lovely. We've been speaking with Rika Holm Petersen, Director of Marketing for Wonderful Copenhagen. Rika, thanks for taking the time.
Thank you so much.
It's time to play the puzzle. Joining us this week is Will Shortz, puzzle editor of the New York Times and puzzle master of Weekend Edition. How's it going, Will?
Excellent. How are you, Adrian?
I'm pumped up for some puzzling. And before we launch into it, please remind us of last week's challenge.
Yes, it came from Eric Shaken of Westlake Village, California. I turned on the TV and saw anger, evil, slander, and ruin. It was all pleasant news. What channel was I watching and what specifically was on the screen? Well, the channel was probably ESPN, and you were watching NHL hockey standings that were on the screen, because the words anger, evil, slander, and ruin can be found in the middle of Rangers, Devils, Islanders, and Bruins, which are all NHL teams in the Northeast.
That is a clever one. I like it. There were more than 100 correct entries, and this week's winner is Bill Hoffman of Helena, Montana. Bill, congrats.
Thank you.
Bill, how did you figure out the answer to this week's puzzle?
The word slander started to just gnaw at me, and then I realized that the challenge said I saw the word, so I assumed maybe it wasn't just complete words. And slander became Islander, and then Bruins and Devils and Rangers fell right into place.
Well, nicely done. I have to ask, how long have you been playing the puzzle?
Off and on for many years. In the very early years, I was living and working in Yellowstone Park and didn't have radio connection, but after we moved out of the park, pretty much every Sunday for a long time.
Why are you throwing your Pop-Tarts around? And that's not even your Pop-Tart.
What do you do when you're not playing the puzzle?
I play pickleball with a Sleeping Giant Pickleball Club here in Helena, cook, fish.
She's helped herself.
Work the New York Times puzzles and enjoy living in Montana.
Bill, out here living the dream.
We think so.
Not really.
Hopefully we can make this part of the dream, Bill. Are you ready to play the puzzle?
I am ready.
Okay, Will, take it away.
All right, Bill. The theme of today's puzzle is AI. Every answer is a familiar two-word phrase or name in which the first word has a long A vowel sound and the second word has a long I vowel sound. For example, if I said facial feature indicating insincerity, you would say fake smile.
Okay.
So here you go. We'll start really easy. Number one is numbers after 6, 7.
8, 9.
That's it. The shortest distance between 2 points.
A straight line.
That's it. Fear of speaking before a large audience.
No, it's not coming to me.
And let's say that you're an actor and you are afraid.
Stage fright.
You got it. Direct interaction with someone one-on-one.
FaceTime.
Good job. One of two things on the rear of a car.
Tail light.
Good. A two-wheeler you can pedal off-road.
A mountain bike.
Well, you need a long A sound in that first word. Bike is right. What would you ride the bike on? A little path through Yellowstone, maybe?
Trail bike.
Trail bike, is it? An injury that might come with venom.
Snake bite.
That's it. Have a short break.
Short break.
You're working hard and you want a short break, you might. What?
Take 9.
Take is right. What's a different number?
What do you got?
Take 5.
Take 5, is it? What cuts a porterhouse or T-bone?
Steak knife.
Right. An increase in salary.
A pay raise. Or pay hike.
Pay hike, is it? A manicurist's implement.
Kind of cool.
A nail file.
That's it. An astronaut's
It's got to be
trip.
worth something.
A space.
It's when you're in the rocket and you travel around the Earth or over to the moon, you would be on what?
Oh, yeah.
I want to think walk. Space.
You want your orange?
You
You
would do
want
an
everything.
airplane.
This is your orange.
Same thing in airplane.
Space
That
ride.
wasn't hers.
I'll just tell you, it's a space flight.
That's not mine.
Flight. Okay, thank you.
That was close enough.
Like corn stalks
Leave it
that
alone
reach
then.
halfway up the body.
Corn stalks that reach
Don't
halfway
touch
up the body.
You don't need it? Don't
Like
touch.
those. It's an
It's a
adjective.
Pop-Tart that you've been munching
First of all,
on.
what's halfway up the body with a long A
Here's your
sound?
rubber man.
Waist.
Yes. And those corn stalks would be waist what?
Waist high.
That's it. And your last one is a fearsome shark.
Great white.
Great white. Good job.
Nicely done, Bill. How do you feel?
I feel great. They're already been a bucket list to be chosen for this. So
what happened now?
I'm excited.
Well, you did an amazing
No,
job.
you're not taking that
and
to
for playing
the
our
there,
puzzle
man.
today, you'll get a weekend edition lapel pin, as well as puzzle books and games. And you can read all about that at npr.org/puzzle.
No, you're not.
Bill, before you go, tell us what's your member station.
YPR, and I also listen to KGLT in Bozeman.
That is Bill Hoffman of Helena, Montana. Thanks for playing the puzzle.
Thank you both.
And Will, can you tell us what next week's challenge is?
Yes, it comes from Peter Gwen, who writes for Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me. Name something many hospitals have
Hey, don't take
in
that
7
outside.
letters.
That does not
Rearrange
go
the letters
outside.
to name 2 things that you
Doll
can
and
get
stroller does
inside a
not go
hospital.
outside.
4 and 3 letters
You
each.
will lose it.
So
The dogs
again,
will chew it
name
up.
something
Let her go
many
out there with you.
hospitals have in 7 letters.
Say okay.
Rearrange those letters to name 2 things that you can get inside a hospital. 4 and 3 letters each. What things are these?
So, puzzlers, you've got your assignment. When you have an answer, go to our website, npr.org/puzzle, to submit your response. Just fill out the form on the puzzle page, and remember, just one entry, please. Our deadline for entries this week is Thursday, August 14th at 3 p.m. Eastern. Don't forget to include a phone number where we can reach you. If you're the winner, we'll give you a call, and if you pick up the phone, you'll get to play on the air with puzzle editor of the New York Times and puzzle master of Weekend Edition, Will Shortz. Thanks again, Will.
Thanks a lot, Adrian.
New York City is thrown into chaos at the start of a new novel, Dwelling. The mayor has decided to turn all the city's available rental housing into glorified Airbnbs. And because of this mass eviction, the city's renters soon find all their stuff piled up on the sidewalks like garbage. And that is where Evie Carvalho finds herself, on the sidewalk, sitting on a random couch with a cook who is, well, not a cook anymore because they're unemployed and homeless. Both of them are trying to figure out where to go from here when the cook says,
I guess I also have a niece with a duplex in Wisconsin, and my aunt has a ranch in Texas near Gulluk. Gulluk. The name lodged in Evie's mind like a funny piece of glass. She said goodbye to the man, though he was already lost within himself, and walked towards the bridge that would take her to the city center.
Let's go with it.
She stepped over a baking sheet and shower caddy that lay prostrate across the sidewalk. She turned down the street that ran parallel to the water's edge and stopped to sit staring at the skyline. She shared a bench with a rat eating out of a shoe full of wet Cheerios.
both of Evie's parents are dead. Her sister is in a mental institution, but Gulluk, turns out Evie has a distant cousin there. And wouldn't you know it, the cousin is a realtor. This is the beginning of Emily Hunt Kivel's debut novel, Dwelling. And from there, Evie seeks shelter in the mysterious yet whimsical town of Gulluk, starting over as a young woman who lives in a shoe.
It's essentially the only rental property that Evie can afford, basically because it's a novelty property that looks like a giant cowboy boot that's, just rising into the sky. It was formerly a dance hall, and then it was a shoemaking studio, and now it's kind of just been sitting vacant for years, and now it's going to be Evie's residence.
I couldn't help but wonder at this point, are you like a fan of fairy tales?
Yeah, I am a big fan of folk tales and fairy tales. And I also think that for whatever reason, as I was kind of conceiving of the book and of this image I had of an old woman living in a shoe, I started becoming interested in that image. And I started becoming kind of amused by doing a thought exercise. Oh, why is this woman in the shoe? What brought her there? Kind of reverse engineering how she got there. So I ended up with this idea that, she has to be there. Even in the old nursery rhyme, there's this element of, she's kind of adult children. There's some economic implications even to the nursery rhyme. And of course that's in Dwelling, but I also think that when Evie moves into the shoe, it's actually kind of a turning point for the better in her life. And so there was actually some kind of catharsis in writing the book as it is.
You have a lot of comedy in the book as well. Like, you have a running gag where all these people start coming up to Evie's boot house and asking for, cobbler services. And then Evie eventually decides, well, maybe I'll start making shoes. You also have a running gag about buffets. What is it about buffets that you find so hilarious?
Look at that guy go.
Oh gosh.
That's why I
because
wanted
they're
you to stay
physically
inside.
quite awkward. You know, you're watching
They're not
people
nice to
take
you
these
right now.
gigantic spoons and slop,
I'm sorry,
pounds
they're
of
not
some
being nice to
random
you.
dish onto their plates one
Did you
by
go tell
one.
Nana?
And so I love
Well,
the
you
idea
need to go
that
explain it
we're
to her,
seeing all
please.
these like esteemed
Go
people
tell her and
at
she'll
this
help
event,
you.
and yet they're at a buffet.
She wanted you
and so
anyway.
there's
She
this
said,
kind of
"Chica, where are
unpolished
you?"
quality that I wanted to always be in the novel, always be there to remind us that these people are human.
Not to give away
Will you
any
do
plot
Diamond
points,
R
but
with
there
her?
are some secret societies, there are
'Cause,
magical
like, them boy-
keys,
those guys
magic
are-
shoes, and you don't do a
The
lot of
boys.
explaining in the story about all of these things. So I'm just
Oh, they
wondering, like,
hit her?
how do you come up with them?
See,
do you have
I
some sort of
can't
like
be-
internal logic that you're following?
I was interested in allowing a book to have mystery that goes
I know these little
unsolved,
guys
not
took off
necessarily like
yesterday.
cliffhangers or anything like that, but
They did,
really
man. I was at a
allowing
fucking
certain
breath house
facets
chasing
of
dogs
this
around,
world
then I
to
realized
just be and
they
exist.
weren't
And I
helping me
think
anymore, and they were
in a
heading that
world
way.
where we're so encouraged
Well, actually, they played hide and go seek behind Edge
and
stuff
solve
over here by the
everything
bus.
immediately, there
By
was
that
something
bus
very
and all
liberating
that
in
shit
creating a
over
world
there,
that
they
had
played hide and go
mysteries that
seek
go
with me.
unexplained, that people accept as
Both
mysteries.
of them did. They would not.
I
they
read a
wouldn't say
description of
word
your
to me.
book that described it
And I would
as
stand there
a
very
fairy
quietly.
tale
Just-
of
I was in
late-stage
the carport
capitalism.
area.
I don't
That's
think I've
how
ever
I heard
seen
that.
any book described as that.
'Cause I thought they were in
so
our
I'm
country.
curious, like, is that how
In the
you
blue
see
one.
it?
Yeah, I think that,
told you, you could
fairy
walk through
tales
it
and folk tales always reflect the anxieties of their day.
point is-
And so in that way, this certainly is a fairy tale of late stage capitalism. It's a quest of one woman who's been made to feel valueless in her society, right? She has this kind of very removed work life. She has a living situation that she has no control over. And that becomes quite plain when she is in fact kicked out of the city that she lives in and was born in, because it would actually be more efficient if a tourist came and replaced her. And that's an anxiety, obviously an extreme version of it, but an anxiety that we do all feel to some degree right now. And so I think with Evie, there's this kind of there's an adventure that stems from a very deep collective anxiety that we're all experiencing. And I do believe that within that is a folktale.
And so, how much of this story is aspirational for you? I mean, you live where this story takes place in Texas, right? I mean,
I do.
I don't know if you live in Gullett, but you do live in Texas, right?
I wish I lived in Gullett. Maybe aspirational. I think that Evie's story is one of this kind of radical acceptance that I think is very difficult to achieve. And I came to Texas not because I had any plans to or even wanted to.
New York, right?
Yes, exactly, from New York. And I came here, kind of similarly. I didn't have any plans to, and I didn't particularly want to. And yet, when I arrived, there was something expansive that happened to me and happened to my life, and especially that happened to my creativity. And so it was unexpected. It wasn't even my first choice, but there was this generosity of spirit and this kind of creative, imaginative world that opened up for me. And so I do think that there is a parallel, at least, between my own experience in making this move and Evie's.
Without giving the plot away, I want to ask you about Evie's shoes. At some point in the story, she comes across some very special shoes that help her get where she needs to go. I wonder if I could ask you just to imagine if you had a pair of these special shoes that could take you where you needed to go. Where would you go?
That's a great question. I think I would probably go somewhere where community is really, really easy to form. And I think on some level, I have that here, which has been beautiful, but I do think that since moving, since writing the book, what I've really seen is that community is one of the only ways to resist this kind of alienation that society is foisting upon us. And so I think that places that are overwhelmingly expensive and exploitative to their residents make it very difficult for those communities to form. Not impossible, but difficult. And so I think for me, I'm always looking for places that allow for this kind of connection.
We've been speaking with Emily Hunt Kivel. Her new novel is Dwelling. Emily, thanks so much for speaking with us about it.
Thank you.
There's no such thing as too far gone.